Hi there. I'm Tom.
I'm Valti.
Nice to meet you. Are
Nice to
you,
meet you.
are you building a voice AI assistant?
Yeah, um, I just did integration around the OpenAI real-time API, and recently been, yeah, that's one of my last projects. And I didn't know what roundtables there were, but this one seemed interesting since I want to get more into evals. And yeah, I have no idea what specific evaluations we can use for the voice agents.
Yeah, I think voice AI agents require a particular type of evaluation where you're not looking at that's different than other LLM type evaluation. Oftentimes, you're looking at a broader context within the call and not just individual turns. And um, you also need to be looking at um, what happens throughout the caller journeys and things like that. I think it's different. I think that's why we decided to set up this roundtable. What kind of voice AI agent are you building?
Um, Well, like a sales assistant for an electronics chain where he talks to you about what you want to purchase and he does a search through the product database. And through the conversation, I'm using the structured output combined with the JSON schema of the website to update the website based on your conversation. So you're kind of talking to this kind of sales chatbot that's in the website, and he like updates the website for you like a person would show you inside a store.
Yeah, I love that. It's like a voice user interface for a website, right? It's like they're talking to the website and it's showing them
Yeah,
just what they want in a way.
yeah, and yeah, I just like got it kind of functioning, and this customer who is a electronic store who has they have like 5,000 products, and then it kind of matters when you have lots of different options to be able to talk about it instead of searching forever for the right product.
Yeah,
And yeah, so it's this kind of generative UI stuff, kind of. Hello.
great. Hi, Stephen. Welcome. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Are you building a voice AI assistant?
I have a client who has a IVR solution using Genesis, and they're trying to build out some solution for I don't know if it's going to be virtual agent or just some type of tooling to help the live agent, but uh, you know, it's really interesting. They have really high expectation for latency uh, and accuracy. So yeah. Um, So I figured this will be interesting room for me to join. I'm new to this whole thing, so I don't know how it works.
Great. And have you built a prototype already or built a minimum viable product for them? And what platform are you using that you built it with?
Um, so yeah, so we were brought in initially just to do the almost like a chat question answering solution for the live agents.
Okay.
But then in the middle of the project, it kind of got pivoted to what is the art of possible? What else can we do? And then that's when we realized they have the live agents today have different um, different system that you use. So like when a customer calls, they first go into a system to verify the accounts, and then so they'll pick up the phone call on Genesis Cloud. They go to the account verification system to verify the account. Then they go to almost like a knowledge system to ask some questions. That's where our solution lives. So we have a rapid implementation for that. And then they'll do the account processing or maintenance for the customers, and then they finish the call, and then they'll enter some call notes in Genesis Cloud. That's kind of what they're doing today. Um, so, um, But the other thing that I was looking at, I saw a demo by this company, Jerry. They're like a car insurance company, and they actually developed something called Propellix AI. And they spun out of the company, and it looks pretty promising. Like it's all agentic based, and you have a router agent that's responsible for routing the customer inquiries, and then depending on the type of issues the customers need to resolve, the agents will route it. And there's like a pretty robust stack in terms of like testing, prompt management, evaluation, and all that. So yeah, so that's been really promising. So
What was the name of that platform that you saw that was doing that? And Valdi, I'm going to mute you just because your keyboard's a little loud, and feel free to unmute when you want to contribute to the conversation.
yeah, so this company is called Propellix. So P O
Yes, yes.
P R O P L. Yeah, yeah. I don't know if folks use it or like, if it's popular or not, but it seems like it. From what I see, it seems like a pretty mature solution that's suitable for clients in highly regulated industries where they have really high expectation for accuracy and taking it to production, basically. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, great. So far we're going around for Keith and Roman, who just entered the roundtable. We've been going around and talking about what we're building, and what platforms we're building it on. And Valdi is building on real-time OpenAI's real-time API, and he's building something where somebody can talk to a website and see particular items from the inventory, and then the website updates in real time. So it's this concept of a new type of website that's dynamic. And Stephen is building with Propellix. Propellix is really interesting. You're the first person I've ever met that's been building on Propellix. Propellix started as an internal tool built by a company called Jerry, and Jerry is a automotive. They're trying to do everything that uh, you have to manage when you're a car owner, from insurance and maintenance and all the other lease management, everything like that. They have an all-in-one platform for car ownership, and as part of that, for customer support, they built out their own voice AI assistant. And it started working so well that they're like, oh, there's something interesting here. We're going to spin out a new company. And they started Propellix. What's interesting about using their platform is, in a sense, you're kind of leveraging what already a pretty big company that had a high bar for accuracy and reliability. They've built out this platform internally, and you're getting to leverage what they've already built, rather than build from scratch with more, basic components. So it's really interesting. I think getting to learn more about what you've seen there using that platform, I think, would be beneficial for the whole group. Typically, what I see people building on is kind of a spectrum of voice orchestration, choosing using voice orchestration products, and there's a spectrum of those. There's those really low code voice orchestration platforms like Synthflow is probably on one end of the extreme. Then people, depending on how much flexibility they want to have that voice uh, orchestration platform, and the sort of custom work they want the voice assistant to do, then they move to the other end of the spectrum and will build with. The far end of that spectrum is they don't use any sort of voice orchestration, but they write out the whole speech to text, LLM, text to speech, VAD, and all those other components themselves. I think one step before that is people building with perhaps like Twilio and Node.js and real-time API. And Propellix probably fits. I'm not sure where that would fit, but it's probably more towards the. Do you feel, Stephen, that it's more towards the? They have more built-in modules, but you can still code with it. Or is it all low code?
It's all low code. I think that the intention is for someone that's, maybe a slightly more technical business analyst will be able to, essentially manage the platform. So like, one agent could have different scenarios that the particular agent handles, and it's all just handled through the prompt or some type of clever, you know, variables inserted. So that's what I saw, at least.
Cool. Great. Well, thank you so much for sharing about it. It's really interesting. Um, Keith, would you like to share what you're building? Are you building a voice AI assistant?
Yeah, I just left a firm that was starting to do the evaluation. It was a very large insurance company. I'm not going to, since the call is recorded, I'm not going to get into a lot of details, but you can check out my LinkedIn and it's listed there. The company was evaluating Sierra as a call center capability. So, I forget the gentleman's name now, that was at Google Maps, and he's at chairman of OpenAI, but he and another person founded Sierra, and they had started it initially as more of a chat virtual agent, but now they've moved into the voice piece. And the challenge that large enterprises are having is several layers of authentication have already been put in place for whether it's a member authentication. So let's say it's an insurance company. So doing the member authorization, and then connecting in with existing call center technology, right? So whether it's 5 nines or 8x8 or some of the other capabilities out there, and then with Benioff basically saying anyone that's rolling your own AI, you're wasting your time. You should just use Agentforce. It's causing a lot of firms to kind of pause and say, do we just go all in on an Agentforce and not worry about training our own LLMs? Or do we start embracing the frontier models that are out there from, Llama or Amazon Nova or Granite or any ones out there? So it's still a lot of experimentation, I think, at the larger companies, because there's such a fragmented topology that the existing companies need to work with, right? So if you start in greenfield, phenomenal, right? So because you don't have all these existing, Salesforce and SAP and Workday and other legacy applications. So that's really what firms are challenging with now, and you're seeing this pull and push of roll your own, or use the embedded capabilities of some of these enterprise technologies. So it's still kind of, from what I'm seeing, is still some evaluation, because people are skittish about going down one particular route for the larger companies.
Yep. And we see a similar thing in voice AI right now. I think that um, there's a lot of interest in voice AI assistants because we see because of the importance of large companies getting to have a touch point with their customers, and the high expense of running a call center or contact center. It's a big operational expense. So we're seeing large companies trying to get involved, but they're really just dipping their toe in and then kind of wincing away and being like, "Hey, I don't know." Um, one of the and so I think what that's creating in the voice AI space is a lot of interest, and venture capitalists are investing in voice AI because they're seeing a lot of startups come in and say, look at these like Fortune 100 companies that I'm working with. But those Fortune 100 companies have bought contracts that, are paying for credits up front, and they're very slowly paying down those credits because they're just trying things out. And one of the interesting things that you brought up around this, Keith, and I think this is relevant to our conversation about evals in general, is that um, it's really easy to build a demo voice AI assistant that's 85% of the way there and can really wow people. They're like, wow, that's really cool. It seems to really understand intent so much better than a legacy system like the Genesis systems that Stephen was talking about earlier. But to go from that 85% capable to 100% capable is a lot of engineering effort. And it's largely because of what you were talking about, Keith, where to tie into these um, uh, enterprise software systems like SAP and these other things, it takes a lot of work, and it's hard to get it right. And so I think that's a pretty good summary of what the voice AI space in general right now. Like, there's a lot of interest, but very few people have figured out how to expand very deeply in big companies. Sorry, go
Yeah,
ahead.
let me just do one other point, because and you're also seeing conversational AI has been around for years, right? So a company like Amelia that's been in the call center space for some time, I think SoundHound or someone just acquired them. They were good, and it's about containment rate, right? So when you have this call center, how much call containment can the virtual, or I'll just say conversational AI, right? I won't get into the agents piece, but can conversational AI contain 70% of the inbound calls? And when you're dealing with tens of thousands of calls a day, that's material. We just saw with the initial technologies, dialects and simple things like date of birth, right? We saw a 70% failure rate when people are coming in with different dialects or different accents. And this is a US domiciled insurance business, right? So this is not a global, Fortune 10 firm that's dealing with, 160 countries. This is just in the 50 states with the dialects coming in, having that, greater than 95 to 98% accuracy rate for simple things is just the demographics. It's a high false positive or high negative, I should just say. So as people are going through this, to your point, Tom, 100%, the demos look great, and it's Brett Taylor. Brett Taylor is the founder of Sierra, and the demos are really good. And a lot of their use cases out there are companies that don't have a lot of, they have Sonos and they have Weight Watchers and some others. But when you have these large companies that have grown through M&A and you have these fragmented systems, that's where some of the challenge and then the frustration, right? Because then you're going to see these PowerPoints that say, X millions of dollars of savings, but just to kind of fail fast and get through this, but understand where the points of friction may still exist. Just make sure everyone's aware that this is, super, super bleeding edge kind of technology.
Yes. Could you tell me where you saw that case study where that talks about the high failure rate on American dialects and getting simple information like date of birth? And
Yeah,
it reminds me of like the difficulty of getting email addresses. Like voice AIs have a lot of trouble with that.
So that was our own internal testing, right? So those
Okay.
conversations we had directly with our provider, but I can definitely do some searches and because it's not an uncommon thing, right? Everyone loves the happy path, but as soon as you go off the happy path, that's where you get some friction.
Yeah, and I'm so glad you brought up this concept of happy path because I think that's what makes evaluations for voice AI assistants different. Is you can't break down every little step and look at just individual steps in isolation like you can with other evaluation methods with LLMs. Instead, you have to look at the entire call flow, and a call flow sort of I think the best way of thinking of a call flow is there's a happy path or happy paths that you're expecting people to go down, but then there's the sad paths where something goes wrong. And those are really the areas that you need to find a fast way to surface and then figure out how to fix those so that more and more of those branches where people are going down that they shouldn't be going down, you can fix them by updating your prompt or your third party provider integration or your tool call or whatever, and make sure it comes back into the happy path. Roman, would you like to join the conversation? Are you building a voice assistant? We'd love to learn more about what you're doing.
Okay. Can you hear me?
You're a little quiet, but yeah, it's all good.
I'm not sure if my mic.
Maybe Stephen, can Stephen just go on mute because maybe it's just.
Yeah, I'll mute you, Stephen. Yeah.
Is better now?
Yes, good.
Hello? Okay, perfect. Yeah. So hi, everyone. Nice to meet you all. I'm Roman, and so we are a early stage startup called Antennae. And yeah, sorry for, it sounds like a bit like a pitch, but, perhaps it's just the best way to kind of, describe what it is exactly, what we're doing. And perhaps it actually ties in a little bit to what Keith was saying earlier. But essentially, it came out of, two premises that we had. One being that even present day large language models have run out or are running out of data for them to be trained on. And, it's going to be even more pronounced for next generation of LLMs. And, it's an issue that persists not only for English language, but even more so, especially for lesser spoken languages that have traditionally had even less of, data being digitized and stored online. So that was, premise number one. And premise number two is that, we feel like the future of our interaction with the AI will be increasingly conversational. So what we realized is that, like one of the best sources of high quality conversational data are things like podcasts and radio stations. There are still, like hundreds of thousands of radio stations operating globally, producing content around the clock on wide variety of subjects, be it sports, news, politics, any other, kind of specific topics. So essentially, what we're doing is first we are aggregating audio feeds from all these, diverse sources. But we're also transcribing this audio into text, embedding it with like high contextual metadata. So, for example, being able to differentiate between different speakers, being able to tell, what kind of sentiment or emotion is being expressed during the show, what sort of topics are being discussed at any given point in the show. And with the premise of essentially like offering these data sets to, I guess, any company that's involved in building or fine tuning AI models, agents or chatbots, but like high quality conversational multilingual data that also sort of can capture different nuances when it comes to not only different languages but also like dialects as well, to like what Keith you were saying earlier.
Yes, that's so neat. I think it's like data mining, right? It's like where can we go to find more data for building the next level of to fill in the gaps on the shortcomings of the current large language models and to bring them to the next level. And there's all this high quality data in voice that we could be bringing into these models. That's such a neat concept. What is the name of your company again? Ant9?
Ant9. I'll write it down.
Okay, great.
Yeah, so far we just only have like a landing page, but like a new version of the website will be up and coming. We also provide like RAG as a service, essentially, with this transcribed text that's like embedded and can be easily integrated into like a customer's AI workflow as well, just to kind of make the job easier.
Yep. Great. Well, we should probably. I was really looking forward to meeting the people that join this, the roundtable, and getting to hear about what people are building. That's my favorite part of working in technology is getting to meet other builders, other people that know a lot about sort of the cutting edge of what's getting built out there and have vision for what they want to do with it. But we are here to talk about evals for voice agents, and the place I actually want to start with this is pre-production. I see, I think because of what we were talking about earlier, the state of voice AI is still very nascent. So if you go to somebody and say, hey, I've got this eval system that can help you figure out what your agent is doing in production, it's not really their burning need yet. That's what we do. We provide a voice eval system that helps people see what's going on in their agent calls. But what I frequently hear from the people I talk to about it is like, hey, I'm still just trying to get my agent out in production. It's still at that 85% level, and we need to get it to that 98% level of accuracy. So I think what we're currently seeing a lot in the market is people building testing for voice assistants. So it's something where you can imagine if you're building a voice AI assistant from scratch, and you want it to do something like, let's just take a simple use case. It's a after hours agent that somebody could call for a plumbing business. And you want it to be able to take the call in from somebody who calls at like 11 p.m. about a leak under their house and figure out whether or not that call needs to be escalated to a manager that's on call, or it could just be, uh, taken note of and somebody calls them back in the morning. If you're trying to build that sort of system, the first thing you want to do is test it a lot. So when somebody's building a voice AI system, they'll write like a system prompt and they'll tie in some third-party integrations to be able to figure out how to transfer calls or look up schedules or that sort of thing, set appointments. and then they'll call that assistant manually a bunch of times, and try to find the edge cases, and eventually be like, okay, I think I've like refined this thing enough. And we're seeing a pretty good amount of interest and growth from companies that try to do that in an automated way. They'll simulate those testing calls. One that comes to mind is the one that seems to be getting the most attention, but this is recorded. But I mean, hold my tongue a little bit more, is one that does it using just, I'm not actually going to say the company name, I probably shouldn't, is one that does it just with text. So it doesn't actually simulate the voice interaction. It's not a voice assistant calling another voice assistant. It's just you're emulating the voice experience by just having the two chat back and forth text space. And it comes up with a bunch of different scenarios and then simulates that and tries to figure out where your agent is breaking and tell you what to do about it. There's another one that's great. I think they're called Koval, that is also helping people test these agents. And I think this speaks to the fact that these are the companies that are maybe growing the most in the voice AI assistant broader evaluation testing space, or the testing companies. Speaks a lot to where we are right now. And I don't want this just to be something where I'm just working on behind a podium. So I want to pause after speaking a lot and see like how that resonates with you guys. Have you guys seen a similar thing? How are you guys doing testing of your voice AI assistant? Does anyone have anything they would like to contribute to what I just said?
I guess if I may ask, do you think like sort of what I was talking about in terms of what we do, and providing these audio high quality conversational data could essentially improve the these voice agents that are being developed in production?
What do you mean?
Yeah, like just basically a question, like if you embed, or sorry, if you provide and train these AI voice agents with more high quality conversational data, it they should in turn improve in their kind of conversational capabilities, right?
Right. Yeah. So we're seeing these audio to audio models come out, and the type of data set that you're collecting could be really important for training those models. And you wouldn't even need to go through the transcription step. Although I might be speaking a little out of turn there because I don't know a lot about how these sorts of models are trained. Um, the step that comes after, once you've released an agent into the wild, an assistant into the wild, is it's interacting with real humans. And I think people really get that when you develop a website, you need to see what your users are doing with the website. I mean, Google Analytics is a pretty basic thing that people set up once they have a website out in the world to figure out, okay, um, optimize my customer workflows and make sure that they're going down the paths I want. Um, in the voice AI assistant world, we're going to see a similar thing. A voice AI assistant, I think, essentially is like a website. I think that's one of the best analogies for thinking about what a voice AI assistant is. And it's also similar to what Valdi is building. I think Valdi is building a dynamic website that updates in real time. It's not a static website, but updates in real time and shows people new websites based on what they're talking to the website about. So ultimately, I think with websites, we know that we have to analyze them and analyze what's happening with the customers as they're interacting with it. And in the voice AI world, we're going to have to do a similar thing, but it's complicated by the fact that it's not just, you can't just map clicks and figure out where people are going with clicks and new page views. It's embedded in textual and audio data that's harder to parse and figure out what's going on. And there's things like tone and sentiment, and also like what are the happy paths and the sad paths that people are going down. So it's a totally different sort of challenge. There's companies out there like us that are trying to work on that space too, that are taking voice AI assistant data. People send their recordings to us and we help them map what happened in the call. So with that, we're kind of running out of time. This was a really fun session. I think I gathered a lot from hearing about what other people were building. I hope some of my pontifications about what I think is going on generally, bigger picture in the voice AI assistant world, I think and evaluations will hopefully be helpful for you guys. Somebody lowered their hand.
Yeah, just Tom, if I could just ask one question. I know we've got 40 seconds. So I was on with a company yesterday that it was a human interaction, but they allowed text-based chat during the phone call, right? So one concept is if you have a voice agent, and let's say you have an artifact that you want to present, let's say it's a picture of a broken part. Have we seen any companies that have done the multimodal where you could do the voice and let's say I have a picture of a flat tire, right? And I want to send that picture. Are there agents that will combine a vision model along with the voice model and then try to really contain so that there's no exception out to a human? And we got 6 seconds left.
I'm mostly seeing that with websites. I'm not seeing it with like real-time physical things. Yeah, so like people, I just got a notification that the session's over, so I should probably wrap up. But people are building these really neat things where, like my favorite example of this is one built by Fluidworks, where they're walking people through a demo of a product or a customer onboarding, and the customer can say like, "What does that button do? This button over here,"
Right.
and the voice AI will be able to see what they're pointing at because it's also taking a video feed from the website from the browser.
Yeah.
LiveKit has some stuff to make building this sort of thing easier too, if you're interested in building that sort of thing. This is great. Thank you everyone for joining. This is really fun. Really nice meeting you. I hope to connect with you all later at another time or another platform. And see you all. Have a great day.
Excellent.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Good, everyone.